Between school, your friends, and social media, answers are everywhere. But where can you find the truth? Welcome to the Well StudentCast. We're asking for a friend so you don't have to.
Welcome back, party people. We are back at the Well StudentCast asking questions for a friend so you don't have to. My name is Brynn and I'm here with my friend
Ka'eo.
What's up?
I'm so glad we're here.
We're here.
We're here at our favorite podcast where we ask the questions so you don't have to.
That's so fun.
And then we have such a special treat because we asked the question and we got so many questions to go through today.
Yes, if you did not know, today and in a couple weeks, we're doing a 2-part Q&A where we're going to rapid fire through some questions that you guys asked for your friends.
Exactly. And so just so you know, really emphasis on the rapid fire because there are a lot of questions that came in, which means that we don't have time to be in depth, but that does foreshadow that in the future seasons of this podcast, we will be hitting those questions a little bit more in depth to help provide clarity and, I don't know, better conversations for you and your crew. Yeah,
totally. So exciting. Well, I don't know about you, Ka'eo, but it's summer. And that's the best time of year in my mind.
What's their favorite things do you think about during the summer? I think about the Fresno heat, which is tough. But I think about pools.
Yes.
I spend time at the pool.
Pickleball,
snow cones.
You could play all year long. But
that's true, but it seems like a summer
It's a summer thing.
Yeah. Going to the coast with friends.
Yeah. If you're local, you've seen that we have the beach volleyball courts at the Well now. That's a super fun summer hobby.
I can't wait to see people there. I'm actually pretty good at volleyball. At least I'm pretty consistently. I'll hit it in the same place. Maybe not an all-star, but I tend to be very consistent. But that does remind me, though, that a lot of times in the summer, we always get like these weird like summer flings. We have like these relationships that pop up in our student ministry. And it's just like that kind of brings us to this question that we got: summer flings, yay or nay?
I love the wording of this. It's literally summer flings ... yay or nay. I'm like, straight to the point.
Yeah,
it's good.
I think the fact that you call them summer flings equals an automatic nay for me, because then your intentionality is it's just for the summer.
Yeah. Well, and that's like the cheesy, like if we're not dating intentionally, if we're not dating for marriage, we're dating for heartbreak and all the things that you're rolling your eyes at, as we say. But real talk, if you're dating with the like end date already in mind, either you are hurting them or they are hurting you.
Yes.
And as much as we think that we could have a summer fling and no feelings, or have some feelings but be able to like end them right away and just move on to school year or new school or whatever, I just don't think it ever has never At least
worked.
It doesn't work that way for both people.
Yeah, someone's always hurt.
Yes.
And I'm just not sure if that means you're the caring person if you're going in this knowing this will hurt somebody.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and like, what are you trying to replace? Like, what is the summer fling trying to fill? Like, because for me, I'm like, well, if I know it's going to end, why would I invest energy into it? Like, yeah, sure, maybe it's fun for a period, but have fun with friends. Like, invest in those relationships over summer that aren't ending at the end of summer.
Exactly.
And like that investment carries on into the school year. And it's so much more valuable.
But Brynn, we'll be able to do long distance later because most summer flings happen because it's usually like senior year. They're all going to go into college and they're like, oh no, you finally like me. Let's try and make it work.
Broke for everyone.
And it's like, I'm so sorry. It's just not worth it.
It's sad. It really is. But invest in your friendships. Those are going to be longer term. And if you do get into a relationship over summer, that's great. But going in with the intention of summer fling, we would say is probably not the smartest for your heart.
Yep. And that leads us to this next question. In the summer, just speaking of things we need to invest in, we had a friend say, how do we invest in our relationship with God during the summer?
Yeah.
And
what's interesting is like, with that question, over summer being the distinction, there's so much free time over summer sometimes that makes us feel like we have less free time because we're like, we have all this free time that we never have, which means I need to do all these. I always like would make a summer bucket list where I was like, I have to do all these things before the end of the school or before the end of the summer. And then the end of the summer comes and you're like, oh, I didn't make it to Jamaica. But prioritizing time with the Lord over summer. First step is do it.
I was going to say, I think the first step is you just prioritize the Lord during the summer.
Yeah.
I think you can go ahead and still hit all the things on your bucket list that Brynn is saying that you probably do already, or maybe you should, because I think it's pretty rad. It shows intentionality over the summer, which is very important. But I think just start off with, I'm gonna spend time with the Lord at the beginning, or maybe like I'm just gonna choose that sometime during the week. I'm just gonna have intentional time with friends that we're gonna talk about Jesus with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I was going to say, make it fun too. Like you and your friends probably don't have much time during the school year where you have days that are open where you could do like a little Bible study together or things like that. And so what would it look like to even prioritize time with the Lord in community too? But yeah, get your Bible out, get it open.
Yep.
That's how you prioritize your time with the Lord.
That's true. Just get it going. And I think if you need resources or help with that, go ahead and connect with us. We'll gladly be able to help you with some of those things. I recognize that the problem is that sometimes we would go from structure to unstructured.
Totally.
And so it's like, how do we do that? So yeah, reach out, let us know. We can gladly help with that. Or maybe just talk with your friends.
Yeah.
And let's just
Accountability is key.
Here we go.
It's good. Let's see. What's another good one? Okay, there was a lot that came up about this idea of like either inner circle and outer circle friends, or like school friends versus core friends, or all these things. And so, Ka'eo, what would you say? Like, do you wrestle with that idea of like who's on the inner circle? Sometimes that even sounds rude to say out loud, but like, how do you invest in some friendships to be kind of that like really close to heart circle, and then that idea of like, hey, these are more acquaintances. Yeah, we're friendly, but you're not my inner circle.
Exactly. Yeah, I think the struggle for me is like, oh, it sounds exclusive, and I don't like that. But we do have to recognize that we cannot be everything for everybody.
Yeah.
And so there are going to be people who you just naturally click to, or just tend to be in your quote unquote inner circle versus your acquaintances under that. Mm-hmm. And how do you invest in the two? Is that the question? Because I feel like it's really simple. You're going to see that like, hey, like a lot of my time's been spent here with my inner circle, but it doesn't mean that we do not like spend time with people who are outside of that circle as well.
Yeah.
I think you still need to show up for those people as well. But maybe it's like, how much information am I communicating, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe my inner circle is my accountability crew. They're the people that know the ins and outs because they see my life day to day. And so they get to be a little bit closer to like, they get to hear more vulnerable pieces.
Totally.
And then versus my people who are quote unquote the outer circle, maybe they get to, I'm transparent with them. I'm not necessarily like, being deceptive and dishonest.
Yeah.
But maybe they don't need to know all the things that are going on in my life, but they need to know the things that contextually makes the most sense.
Totally.
You know
like
what I mean?
the people who are friends, but maybe not that like inner circle friendship, gets like the first 90%. Mm-hmm. And then the inner circle maybe gets that last 10% of like, and here's like,
here's
my soul.
Like, exactly.
Here's what's going on here. But even, I mean, we saw like Jesus model that, right? Like he had 12 disciples, but then he had a few out of that it was like, here's where I'm like really, really investing.
Yeah. He's still checked in. Even, I would even say some of the disciples would say that they were in the inner circle.
Yeah.
And like John always says, I'm the one that Jesus loved. You know what I mean? So he felt like he was in the inner circle.
Yeah.
And yet I'm not sure that in Jesus' mind, he was like, okay, not you, not you. You know, I think he loved them all equally, but what he shared with them was a little bit different. So.
Yeah. And as you make summer plans and things, maybe that's like a challenge for you to try to have those moments where you are with like your soul people, but then also like inviting other people into that and doing some bigger hangouts and like, okay, this is how I make time for both.
Yeah, I think it's very important for us to just understand, students, as you're processing inner, outer, I don't think you need to be like, I'm so sorry you're in my outer circle.
Don't tell people if they're in your outer circle.
That's just not okay.
It's cruel.
I think people just will understand that, that's your closer friends and I am a friend, and that is okay with that.
Yeah.
You don't need to be like, here's my group text with my close friends and here's my group text with my not close friends, and then label it that.
That'd be rude. That'd be rude. But speaking of, if that happened, you'd probably have to forgive them.
You do.
And so
that was a great
my
segue,
question
Brynn.
is, what happens after forgiveness, and how do you still love that person and not hold on to bitterness? This is a good question.
Yeah, did someone write that for me? Okay, so what happens after forgiveness? I think, first and foremost, we have to talk about forgiveness isn't a feeling. We know that. Like, we are charged by the Lord that because like he forgives us much and therefore we can forgive.
Check out the What is Forgiveness episode of the StudentCast.
Yes, it's actually really good.
Check it out. I think Brandy Penworthy's on that one.
She is. Oh,
it's good.
That's awesome. Okay, so check it out. But now it's like after. Now here's the thing. You can still be not okay. That is actually okay for you still not to be okay. But there's this idea that you can control how you respond, though. And you can still be respectful and you can be honoring still, even though you feel like you don't necessarily want to. And so that's probably what I would say. If you're holding on to bitterness, this is the whole like daily I'm going to choose to forgive you.
Yeah.
And daily I'm going to submit those things to the Lord. But that doesn't mean you need to like, the relationship needs to go back to what it used to be. It can still be a little bit different because of the hurt that's been there.
Totally.
But you control how you respond.
Yeah.
And the boundaries you now have to set up so that way you can heal like well, but you have to communicate those things too.
Totally. So even sorting through if what you're feeling is bitterness or if it's just a like different relationship.
Yeah.
And if it is bitterness, that is something where it's like, okay, process that with community, take that to the Lord. And like you said, I want to just emphasize the like that forgiveness is a daily decision. So we wish it was like okay, I forgave them once and it's done now. It's over. But there's a lot of things in my life where I'm like, okay, that feeling can creep right back up really quickly. And so that everyday choice to surrender that to the Lord and say like, hey, this is not my weight to carry.
Yeah.
Like their hurt against me can't have power over me. Like this is for you, Lord. Like, and so, sacrificing that to him and having people in your life who are the ones that get that like last 10% of you, who hold you accountable in that. And when they hear you talk about them or when they hear you like see an interaction with them and things like that, for them to call you out and be like, hey, like, where are we at with this? You know?
Yeah, that's actually, it's really true. I would even also add that while you're in conflict with someone, you should probably have a third party that is outside both spheres that can essentially be like, I can give you information without having to, or advice, or even hear without it having to affect just having a preconceived bias as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Which kind of leads us to our last question here for our
For
part
this part.
one. So we were talking about just like we have friendships and there's conflict, but then what would, I guess, Brynn, what would you say your advice is how do you even what happens to somewhere you're like, you know what, I want to get new community. I haven't really been in community. This is a good time for me to seek community. What's your advice on trying to even find community?
Yeah.
I think for me, I was just, when I saw this question, I was like, dang, that's really good, because oftentimes community's been very passive for me. It's like I'm in places and spaces where community exists, and then friends just kind of grow because of constant time. Yeah. Or over time. But then I feel like there is this thing where you kind of have to put yourself in those spaces first and foremost, right? Yeah. I can't just stay at home and hope someone will text me and say, hey, come hang out. But yeah. I don't know. What do you think about how to find a new community, especially in different seasons of life?
Yeah. That's been something that I feel like has been a process for me over the past couple of years of even just the fear in community, where it's for me, honestly, girl friendships were really scary for me for a while, where I was like, these feel like I can be hurt pretty deeply. So I'm going to have everyone at an arm's length. But entering into community in the sense where it's find people with the same interests as you. This isn't just a plug for the church because we work here, but enter into a church community, join a life group. Fight for your community, not against it. And so sometimes that looks like hard conversation. Sometimes it looks like doing things you wouldn't necessarily want to do, but showing up because your friend enjoys it and you want to learn more about them. Yeah. But even on say you are in a youth group on a Wednesday night being hey, who wants to go get ampersand afterwards or ice cream afterwards? Almost putting yourself out there and making the first invite to big groups of people, and seeing who you click with in those atmospheres.
Yeah, that's actually really good. I would even say in that kind of advice, be intentional, not intense, and be curious and not creepy. So that's what I would say as you're making new friends. I think that would be a great place for you to start. Be wow, am I being curious about their lives or am I being creepy? So that's what I would say. So I think we're kind of out of time, but we have a lot more.
Yeah, I died and I need to take a break.
So we're going to go ahead and wrap up this one. If maybe we missed a question, you're oh my gosh, I forgot to put this question. Go ahead, put it in there, either send in our DMs or put it at the bottom. But don't forget to subscribe, put the 5 stars on there,
share
leave a review, put it in your story.
What better way to find new community than sharing a podcast with a friend?
Because if it clicks and you're wow, we have something to talk
both
about.
like this.
Let's go get
Great.
coffee.
Yeah, amazing.
Brynn and Ka'eo are our favorite. Cool. We can bond over that.
That's great.
If we start your friendships, you let us know. All right.
Oh, we'd love to take credit for that.
Absolutely. All right. Well, then we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Bye.
Peace out, friends.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Well StudentCast. As always, don't forget to subscribe and tell your friends about us. For more information about the Well Student Ministries, visit thewellcommunity.org/students.